Gerardo, welcome to the Fireside Chat. We're glad you're here.
Hello. Hi, how are you? Thank you for bringing me in.
Tell me about your family life.
I have one sister, a younger sister. She's 22 years old. My mom and my dad. That's it. Only four people in my family. We were very close family, very connected. At the beginning, when I was younger, things began to happen with my parents. Obviously people are not compatible at times. And my mom emphasized over and over again that she wanted to stay in the family until we finished high school for the sake of us being happy. But we all knew deep down that my mom was unhappy. And you don't really get to realize these things or think about these things until you're an adult and you realize that that's a sacrifice that your parents have made. Sometimes it's not about them anymore, it's about you. And to this day, I'm very grateful that my mom moved to make that sacrifice. But I always talk to her and tell her, could have moved on, we could have left, we could have got that sticky situation. I grew up with my father. My father was a very different person, but we still can communicate to this day. We have great connection now. Forgiven and forgot all the different issues in the past, but it's definitely taught me a lot about mentalities and different ways and personalities that people have, and what to look out for when you're looking for the right partner, or when you're what you don't want in your life. So you have to learn from your mistakes. You have to learn from experiences, and my family life taught me a lot of that. We didn't really have connections with aunts or uncles or anybody who can bring help from within. So it was just us, and we learned to work together as a team, no matter what, to always go through and get through it. We weren't really wealthy, so we didn't have a lot growing up, but my parents did what they could and provided me with everything that they could. We lived in a trailer home, and I'm very proud to say that, because there's nothing wrong with that. I had some of the great, my best friends growing up, and I learned to work hard, and I used school as a way to escape, I guess, all the issues, and a way to enjoy it. I learned to love school. I learned to love being involved into different organizations, and hence why now I still continue to know that giving back to the community or signing up for volunteering is important, because it's not about you, it's about your community, right?
I love that. Love that answer. Thank you for sharing that. What do you do right now for a living?
So right now, I'm actually at the courthouse. I work at the family courthouse. I work at the Family Law Self-Help Center. We're a nonprofit organization. I actually work for the Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada. And I work at the Self-Help Center, where we assist people with low income, people who can't afford an attorney, who represent themselves in family matters if it's a civil matter, with forms, paperwork, procedure, information regarding their case and stuff like that. We can't provide legal advice, unfortunately, because we're not attorneys, but we can definitely provide them the right path to, without the Self-Help Center, people would have to either one, hire an attorney and pay the outrageous prices that they charge, or two, just represent themselves in court and see where things go. Sometimes you have, we assist with temporary protection orders against domestic violence, divorces, child custody, adoptions, guardianship, anything you can think of regarding family matters, we can do it. And the people are in need. People, the mom passed away, dad is not in the life, a child needs medical emergency, has a medical emergency, someone needs to take care of a child, the aunt is available. They just want to know how to get it done and what's the best way to do it. So many emergencies, we help people get out of sticky situations regarding domestic violence. Maybe you feel trapped, maybe you feel nervous. Coming into the courthouse is no joke. You don't come there on a good day. So we know people are overwhelmed. We know people are under a lot of pressure, and coming to the courthouse and telling a stranger your story might seem like something that nobody wants to do really, but our job is to, one, make the person feel comfortable, two, assist them with what they need, and make sure safety is a priority, because of course at the end of the day, if you leave and we make a difference, if we made create a little spark of change or hope, our job is to help, and that's what we always tell them. We're here to help you. Don't be afraid to tell us everything you need to tell us, because our job is to help.
What would you say is one of the biggest challenges that you have doing your job?
I think one of the biggest challenges is not being emotionally involved or getting too engaged with each specific circumstance or person that you help. Sometimes you want to do more. Sometimes you want to give somebody some advice or tell them what to do because they simply it's there, but you just can't. Sometimes you have the applicant for the restraining order come in, and you have the adverse party coming after. We both have to equally help them. Doesn't matter who's right or wrong. The court is that, and that might be one of the most challenging things. You help the person that this person did something to, and you have to help this person equally the same. And that's our job. Keep it neutral. Don't get involved emotionally or engaged. It's hard not to feel these things when they tell you these things. Crying, tears in their eyes, or you have Spanish speakers who don't know a word of English, and you give them the forms in English and they have to fill them out in English and they don't know English. A lot of them don't know how to write. A lot of them don't know what this means. So it's one of the most challenging parts. You wish you could do a lot more, which we definitely can, but at that specific time and place, we're very limited because we have to provide the same help for everybody else.
I'm curious, how do you address that when the answers need to be in English, the questions are in English? How do you address that?
I mean, being bilingual, it helps a lot. But even then, we don't. We tell them, hey, the judges speak English. I really wish I can help you one-on-one with this situation, but I definitely, and unfortunately, cannot. Here's what we can do. I would be here at my desk, answer each question. We'll go through it one by one. Take as long as you need. We have people there that are there for 3 full hours. One by one, the question, we'll tell them this question says this. This question says this. They'll answer it, we'll review it, and also next. And little by little, we can get it done. We just can't sit down next to you and do it for you, answer the questions for you. But I tell them all the time, I guarantee you that if this was in Spanish, this would be a no-brainer for you. You know what happened, you know what you want, you know why you're here. The language barrier is something I can help you with, and we just go from there.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. I want to get back into your story. You were actually born in Mexico. What was it like for you growing up in Mexico and then moving here at an early age, and just talk about that part of growing up?
Yeah, I was born in Mexico. I got here at the age of 4. My dad was here before us. Told my mom, hey, I have an opportunity. I have making an income, something that he was unable to do in Mexico because of the limited opportunities. My mom is a nurse. She was a nurse in Mexico. She was working. We had a decent life, and she was looking to buying a daycare so we can have. So different conflicted opinions. You have somebody who's okay, who has a degree, who's making good money. My dad, who's here, in the United States. My mom decided to sacrifice everything she had, her degree, her career, her family, and just move with us here and all become one family. And I grew up here. I didn't know any English. I'm very proud to say that I was part of the English language learner program. I graduated from it, started the GATE program, and then started participating in all these different competitions for elementary school, speech and debate for middle school, honors program. And that makes me pretty proud. A lot of people think, oh, it's just an extra activity, but to me, it feels good to be part of something when you started with nothing and you made fun of by kids that you don't know English, they would be talking about you, you don't know what they're saying. I would come home crying. My dad makes fun of me all the time. He says, remember when you used to come home crying because you didn't understand English? And then I would, because it's hard to not be able to make friends. You want to play with these kids, you want to engage with them. It's hard because you don't know what they're saying. But eventually, throughout the years, I learned English. And in high school, it was a whole different ball game. I was in different honors programs, like EP and graduate honors. So it's from that, starting from nothing to growing up to just continuing to grow. It just goes to show you how many opportunities are here in the US. And I'm thankful for my parents doing that every single day.
What motivated you to keep wanting to grow?
At a very young age, we're probably going to touch on this topic, but it has to do a lot to do with anything. I'm from the DACA program. Before DACA was even introduced as a concept, I knew for a fact that I knew I had more potential, but I was limited. So my dad would always tell me, I love you with all of my heart, and you're one of my biggest pride and joys. And I know we have issues, but you can't go to college. It's going to be too expensive. And you need to just. He slowly laid me down to just know that once I turn 18 and the whole idea and concept that high schools give you, that once you're done with high school, you have to go to college. That wasn't for me. I didn't have a social security number. I wasn't here legally. They didn't have the financial opportunities or scholarships that I would get if I was. And so my idea in my head was, you're going to work construction. You're going to work under the table. You're going to have to learn how to do certain things, but get the best experience out of school. That's the best you're going to get. And I had friends that were older that DACA didn't exist yet, and they were going through the same thing. And I hated to admit that that was going to be for me. But when I found out that scholarships for undocumented students were available and that college was still a possibility, and associate's degree or certification or something at least would help me, that pushed me to continue going forward and grow and to become something that my parents were not. And it was very hard to hit that bar because my mom was a nurse, and graduating high school was like bleaching for her, but it was definitely something that pushed me to go forward more and realize that, when DACA was introduced and I was in the program and I got in, thousands of doors opened up, and that pushed me. I was in 8th grade, and made me realize college is now a possibility. Financial assistance, or I guess scholarships, are somehow limited, but still a possibility. At that point in place, my parents and I didn't care. We knew there was new beginnings. We knew there was a new opportunity, and that pushed me it still pushes me to this day to continue going forward and making the best and doing your best at everything you can, because you have one shot, and we got the shot. We need to prove to everybody who underestimates the immigrant community that we can do it. We just need to have an opportunity.
Can you talk to me about that feeling that you had when you realized you had access to more resources than you thought?
Oh, I mean, when I remember clearly on I think it was in August or June, July. But I woke up. My dad woke me up in the middle of the morning. It was around 8 in the morning. It was breaking news on the TV, and it says DACA program has been, executive action, or I don't remember exactly. But my dad woke me up with tears in his eyes. My mom called off of work, and we were all sitting on the TV watching Barack Obama give a speech of what this program will consist of and different things. And my aunt called me, who we never talked to, and I don't know how to explain it, but it seems like I was giving a new opportunity. It felt like my dad was crying. He says, you're going to college, you're going to get a degree. My sister's going to get help because my sister suffered from thyroid, and it was hard to get her insurance. So, my mom was extremely happy, and so was my dad. And I think I remember that day we went out to celebrate. We went out to the Chinese buffet to eat, and it was just a great feeling. To this day, I still get excited just thinking about it, because it's still going on right now, and it's changed my life in a sense, and nothing has ever been the same.
Okay, Gerardo, tell me about Emmeline. The name Emmeline, I know you're gonna light up. So just tell me about Emmeline. Tell everyone about Emmeline.
Emmeline is my 2-year-old daughter. I love her. She was born in 2020 during COVID. I was going to school for criminal justice. My like I said, I'm re-emphasizing how important education is for me, especially after DACA was implemented. And my only goal in life was to finish my degree, go to law school, become an attorney. That's it. I didn't care about kids. I didn't care about any of that. I wanted to just go forward. That's everyone's goal. I fell in love, I had a girlfriend, had a child with her, found out she was pregnant. After multiple calculations on Excel sheets, because I'm a beginner, the decision was to drop out of college, and that's just something that I had to do. I dropped out of college. Felt really bad, felt really disappointed, especially because you have a dream and then you have to shift it to a different perspective. But when Emily was born, a whole different world. So, you feel the love. I've never loved anybody in my life as much as I love her, and it's a whole different. It's more motivation to do better, and it pushes you to keep going. She was born during COVID, so growing, and I had COVID a month after she was born, so they didn't really get to those 3 months that I had COVID. I didn't get to hold her or anything like that, but I think that just re-emphasized and made the connection with her stronger once I was able to hold her and feed her and do everything the parents are supposed to do.
I know she's just 2, but what are some of the things that you try to teach her?
We try to implement please and thank you a lot. We try to teach her how to be nice and share, and she will take the food right out of her mouth and give it to you. She will do anything she wants to. Maybe tell her that you need something, or uh, if she'll get it for you. You hurt yourself, she'll go run and get you a band-aid. So she's a very sweet child, and we try to implement Spanish. We teach her Spanish, so she's bilingual from the get-go and has that advantage or opportunity to be able to understand both languages. So we teach her that being mean is not good, but also to stand her ground. Basically, when she wants something, like look at sometimes she just looks at me and points at something. I'm like, I'm not gonna. What do you need? Talk to me. So she's being more. She communicates a lot more. She's actually potty trained at the age of 2, so we're very proud of that.
Are there certain things that you experienced when you were growing up that you're intentionally trying to shelter her from?
Yes, 100%. I shelter her from not the negative things in the world, because she's gonna have to be exposed to that, and I want to be the first person to tell her or bring it up to her that, hey, the world is not happy colors or Candyland. There's gonna be bad things that are gonna happen to you. It's gonna be disasters in your life, emotionally and mentally, that are gonna happen. But I try to shelter her from arguing with Natalie, which is her mom, or anybody close. If there's gonna have a conversation, we're not going to continue the stereotype of a family arguing in front of the children. When we have a conversation, if we were both adults to have a child, we're going to be adults and speak outside. In my line of work, of course, it goes hand in hand with that. I don't want to end up in a courthouse to discuss the custody of my daughter. I don't want to end up in a courthouse splitting days or anything like that. So be mature and just, hey, I know you're upset, and I am too. You obviously can't speak right now. Let's take a moment and come back in 20 minutes, speak outside, put the TV on for the kids or for Emma, and let's go outside and have a conversation. Let's not yell. We don't want to scare her. And at the same time, we don't want to become a nature to where she slowly starts to zone out on arguments like I did, or like how I did. And it affects a child a lot when you see both parents arguing. So I try to shelter her from those negative aspects. I try to shelter her from ever needing anything to asking why she can't have it. You provide your child with anything they need, but at the same time, there's a fine line between providing and spoiling. So I'm a very disciplined parent, and I feel like spoiling a child is great when they do something to deserve it, but when you can provide them with everything, but you can do better, just a matter of holding off. I'd rather put money in an account for her college or something she wants to do in the future than to continuously buy her toys that she would throw out after a while. So it's different things that you learn as you grow up. But we definitely, to answer your question, we try to shelter her from arguments or hearing people fight or seeing things that she's not supposed to at that young age.
Thanks for sharing that. You mentioned one thing about putting money into an account for her. How intentional are you about that?
We put money in her account when she was first born during COVID. And after that, we had to use it because COVID hit and it was just a lot. And that's where everything went down. And so we were still working on that. We're saving up little by little. But yeah, we definitely had money in the account, and then boom, COVID hit, had to use that, had to apply for this, had to get that. So you have to move money and finances to be able to survive. So COVID was a very, very tough moment for everyone, I guess I can say, but definitely gonna try to do in the future, of course. And we're getting back on our feet, and hence why I made the video for TikTok. 6 months ago, a year ago, I was in a very bad place, mentally, physically, emotionally. I didn't want to do anything, wanted to kind of just give up on certain things that I was doing, and now like whole switch. So life has turned around completely for me.
I was just getting ready to ask you about that TikTok video in terms of what sparked it. Why was it important to let us know, or to let everyone else know your experience with UpTogether?
I'm going to be quite frank with you. Last year in October, I had just, during COVID, I lived with my mom, my sister, my dad, because he was also in the home. Given that my mom and my dad are not together, me, well, Natalie, I, and my daughter and my stepson lived in one room, all of us. We barely paying any kind of rent because we couldn't afford it. I was working part-time at the courthouse because I just got hired during 2019. My dream to work here, and times were very rough. My my fiance back then had postpartum depression. Coming home after a long day of work in the courthouse, in the courtrooms, arguing and seeing people argue all day, to seeing her not do anything and just want to argue as well because that's what the state of mind she was at. It was a lot to deal with, and I started working at the Legal Aid Center. I met Lynn. Her name is Lynn Martinez. She's part of the UpTogether community. I'm not sure if you guys are, but she's a great person. She told me about UpTogether. I told her my story. We talked, and she told me that I had a lot of potential. She was one of the first people back then when I thought everything was going downhill. That believed in me. She told me that just because things are rough now doesn't mean the sun's not going to come out. Just because things aren't going well doesn't mean the sun's going to come out. 2021 in September last year, I had recently, and I'm okay to talk about this, split up with the mother of my daughter, and you get in a point where you feel lonely, you don't feel like you have the support that you once had. And I'm working, I got a full-time job. I had just moved in by myself with her in our own apartment, but you start to relive what you were trying to run away from. A hostile home that feels more like you're trapped when you no longer feel the same way. Money-wise, we paying our rent all the time, but we were always at zeros or negatives in our bank account. And the fact that I was a parent and I knew I could do better, I knew I had the potential. I applied for so many jobs, and they told me that, you're working at the courthouse, you're overqualified. Like, why are you even here? And I would tell them my story, and they would say, I feel so bad for you, but we're looking for somebody that can be committed. And because they knew that I would work there, so I was able to get back to my feet. And then I would eventually not work there anymore. So I was in a very bad place. And I was at negative $300 on my account. I had to pay for daycare the next week. I had to talk to the director of the daycare. She gave me a chance to put my daughter in, said, pay me whenever you can. A week after that, the grant for the COVID relief for all daycares for people who are under that certain amount of money you make came out, and we were covered for a whole year. I learned about UpTogether. Lynn introduced me to the program. She got me in, and I started receiving that revenue that January. And I promise you that that extra that I knew I could do, that extra income I knew I could get, I was starting to receive it, and I made a big difference. I was able to pay for daycare, additional fees. I was able to pay for my insurance, for my vehicle, my registration. It was a whole different perspective, and it turned my life around.
What did it unlock for you?
I mean, once you get that, you sign up, and it tells you, what kind of payment are you, what kind of payment do you want? Like, you actually get to pick. Do you want it deposited to your account? Do you want a card? It's amazing different options you guys have available, and the difference it makes when you have the card. I personally got the card, and I was able to use it freely to do whatever I want. And that's one of the most important things, I guess, in my opinion, that you didn't want to set any kind of limitations. You can use the money for what you want. You can use the money for what you need, and you're doing something with it. It's yours, and you guys emphasize the importance of being able to use the money freely to whatever you need, because you make your own decisions. And I think that's something that helped me out a lot. The daycare fees, diapers, wipes, anything simple you can think of. We could have got it. We could have had to ask for money. We could have asked my sister or my mom, but we held it down during a big shake, and we were able to get everything we need to get done. And yeah, it's not every month, or everybody's payments are different, but any kind of assistance I was able to get, I was blessed to do it. whenever that time came around where I knew I had that extra cushion, hey, you know what? We're gonna have that extra cushion. Let's go out for ice cream. My daughter loves that. And we're able to start going out more. We're able to start spending more quality time more. We're able to start getting on our feet. Hey, you know what? This time, let's save that money for an emergency. Oh, now, flat tire, got in a car accident, need gas. We have that extra cushion. Let's go out once a week now. Let's go out to eat. When you get paid, you take us out. When I get paid, we'll pay this. And we have that extra cushion there just for a rainy day. But once that rainy day comes, it doesn't even feel like it, because you've been down all the way down where you have nothing and you're at the verge of tears because you have no money, you have no help. And when you have that extra cushion, you feel like you can do anything. So that's what it's turned around for me. Now, just to let you guys know, I've been working full time for 2 years now, almost, making great money. I have 2 cars, moving into a home next week, actually, that we just leased to own, because of course the market is up right now. But our life has completely changed. My daughter is enrolled in the daycare full time. No need to worry about paying for it because we can afford it now. We have a home. We just leased to own the 2-story home with a huge backyard. And now next semester, I'm enrolling back into school to finish my degree. And my job, I will speak to my job to see if they're willing to support in any way to pay for law school. I have a lot of mentors there. So it's life changing. You guys can make a difference, or you have somebody who can help you. And again, I re-emphasize the fact that I knew I could do better. I knew I had it in me. I just needed somebody to believe in me. I genuinely wished I could my goal was to meet somebody who was very wealthy and say, hey man, I can make you proud. Is there a way I can get a loan or something? But, when I was presented with the opportunity, we took it, and now our life has changed. And hence why I made the video. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to send it to. I didn't know what to do. But during COVID, again, I was losing my grip. And I bought a tripod, I bought a ring light, I bought a microphone, I bought a boom mic. I was gonna make a documentary about random things. I would record stuff, and I never used it. I was just there, and I bought the lights and recording gear, and I sat down in the middle of the night, and I was like, look around me. I got approved for a home. I have 2 vehicles. I can pay everything right. I don't have to be in negatives anymore. I'm starting to get back in contact with my friends now that I have a social life because I can afford one. My work is great. My family is healthy. My mom is doing well. She has her home. My dad and I are back in communication. My sister's okay. Everything is going well. And I know there's going to be a rainy day. I know there's going to be stuff, but I'm back on my feet. I'm going for my goals, and I decided to just be thankful and show my gratitude to whoever is in charge or whoever is involved, because it genuinely feels like I don't even know how to explain it, but it feels like it was just a blessing.
It seems like you're thriving on so many different areas. How does it feel to be recognized for some of the strengths that you have, some of the things that you are able to do, rather than only the focus on some of the things that were some of the disadvantages or some of the reasons why you were being denied for things early on?
Recognition is something that it's important to have a mental life. I don't know how to say it. It was last year in that mental state, I signed up for a therapist, and the therapist told me that there was nothing wrong with me, essentially, that I just needed some kind of progress. I was stuck in a place where I had never been before. When you're stuck in that place, you start to recognize all the things you're not good at, but you fail to recognize the positive things. You start to recognize, oh, I need to work on this. I need to work on that. If only I had this, if only I had that. And I was put in a place where I promised myself that as soon as I had these opportunities, as soon as I was back on my feet, there was going to be no excuse to not go forward.
Well, Gerardo, thank you for fighting. Thank you for thriving. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for everything.